Jamal Carter charted galaxies with nothing but a battered telescope and a dream. But the moment he entered the ivory halls of science, his stars meant nothing. Only his skin did. The universe whispered secrets. The world screamed its bias. And Jamal? He screamed back with evidence, brilliance, and a takedown they never saw coming. The south side of Chicago breathed a rhythm of resilience and struggle, a soundtrack of distant sirens, and the low, persistent hum of lives lived on the edge. Of 5 stories up on a rusted fire escape that clung to an aging brick tenement, Jamal Carter, 17, found sanctuary. Here, the city's glare softened into a backdrop for the celestial ballet he mapped nightly. His instrument, a battered brass telescope, its lens imperfect, its stand a testament to loving use. It was more than an object, it was a whisper from his late father, a legacy of looking up. His father, a security guard with an astronomer's soul, had painted the constellations in Jamal's young mind. There for everyone, son, he'd say, his voice a gentle rasp, eyes reflecting the distant glitter. Don't ever let anyone tell you they ain't yours to claim. Now, those words were Jamal's compass, guiding him through equations that felt more like poetry, a language of dark matter and cosmic dawn. Inside their small apartment, the air often carried the scent of antiseptic and unspoken exhaustion. Lorna, his mother, a nurse at County General, waged her own daily war against scarcity, her double shifts a shield for her children's futures. Her absence was a quiet ache, one Jamal tried to fill with fierce protection for his 12-year-old sister, Tasha. Tasha, a whirlwind of bright-eyed optimism, dreamt of piloting jets. I'll wave to you and your stars from way up high, Jamal, she'd declare, sketching fantastical aircraft that defied gravity on paper and perhaps one day in reality. School was a place of muted potential until Ms. Nguien, his physics teacher, saw the universe simmering behind Jamal's quiet gaze. She noticed the notebooks filled not with lecture notes, but with daring theories on dark matter that danced far beyond the syllabus. Jamal, she'd said one crisp autumn afternoon, her intensity a quiet fire, this research, it's exceptional. There's the National Young Astronomers Competition. The grand prize? A full scholarship to Prescott University. Prescott. The name itself felt like a distant galaxy, ivy-strangled walls, hallowed observatories, a universe away from the cracked pavement of his reality. Doubt, a cold, familiar shadow, whispered its usual discouragements. But Ms. Nguyen's belief was a stubborn star, refusing to be extinguished. He poured himself into his paper, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the city's pre-dawn hum, his father's memory a guiding constellation. He wrote of the universe's invisible architecture, proposing a novel way to detect the elusive dark matter. The acceptance, the scholarship, it arrived on a Tuesday, a stark white envelope holding a supernova of hope. Lorna wept, tears washing away layers of weariness, leaving a raw, fierce pride. Tasha danced, proclaiming him a real-life starman. For a few glorious days, their world felt boundless. Then came the packing, the careful swaddling of his father's telescope, the folding of a life into a worn suitcase. As he navigated the narrow stairs, Mr. Henderson, the building's resident cynic, leaned out, his face a mask of disdain. Prescott, huh? He sneered, his voice like grinding gears. Fancy. Think they'll let a kid from the projects touch their fancy telescopes, Carter? Or you just gonna be cleaning 'em? The words, cold and sharp, were a shard of ice in Jamal's heart. He mumbled a goodbye, the hopeful glow dimming, replaced by a chilling premonition. The city of stars suddenly felt vast and a little more dangerous. Prescott University, with its ancient stones and manicured lawns, felt like stepping onto the set of a movie he wasn't cast in. Students, predominantly white, moved with an ingrained, easy confidence that seemed to absorb the New England sunlight. Jamal, clutching his schedule, felt his otherness like a physical weight. The Harding-Pencroft Observatory, majestic and domed, housed the astrophysics department, a temple of science where, he'd soon learn, not all acolytes were welcome. He was one of 3 black students in his astrophysics program. A silent, knowing glance exchanged with Maya and David in that first seminar spoke volumes of their shared, unspoken understanding. Professor Richard Thorne, a titan in black hole research, was an imposing figure with a voice as smooth and cutting as polished obsidian. When Jamal, emboldened by Ms. Nguyen's past encouragement, dared to ask a question after Thorne's lecture, venturing a nuanced thought on gravitational waves, Thorne's gaze was dismissive. Carter, is it? Thorne's tone was a silken put-down. An interesting notion, perhaps a bit ambitious. Stick to mastering the basic math for now. Your kind tends to overreach, gets lost in the poetics of it all instead of the rigor. My kind. The words caught in Jamal's throat, tasting like ash. Thorne waved a languid, dismissive hand. Students from less traditional academic backgrounds focus on fundamentals. The universe rewards precision. This wasn't Mr. Henderson's crude sneer. This was the refined condescension of the ivory tower, a ceiling pressing down, invisible yet crushingly real. Was he out of his depth? Doubt not. It was during a late-night library vigil that Dr. Elena Marquez found him. A visiting astrophysicist from Caltech, Cuban-American, with eyes that held both warmth and a fierce intelligence, she saw him wrestling with complex simulations. Instead of dismissing him, she pulled up a chair. Gravitational lensing, Mijo? Hesitantly, Jamal shared his theories, the ones Thorne had swatted away. Dr. Marquez listened, truly listened, her pointed questions revealing a deep understanding. This is good, Jamal, she said, a genuine smile gracing her lips. Reminds me of my late husband, Luis. He chased the unseen. Professor Thorne, he has his ways. Don't let him dim your light. The next day, she handed him a worn journal, Luis's research notes. I think he would have wanted you to see these. It felt like a lifeline, a connection to another soul who understood the cosmic chase. Then there was Aisha Patel, a whirlwind of activist energy in the computer science department. She'd sought him out after seeing him at a campus diversity rally. Jamal Carter, the dark matter prodigy. Her grin was infectious. Don't let these dinosaurs grind you down. This place needs a serious shakeup, and people like us? We're the earthquake. Aisha was fearless. She organized, she challenged, she wrote. She saw the fire in Jamal and fanned it. They're scared of you, Jamal, she'd tell him over shared late-night pizzas amidst protest posters. Scared that someone who looks like you, from where you come from, can outthink them. Never let them make you doubt that. With Elena's quiet mentorship and Aisha's fierce solidarity, Jamal began to recalibrate. Luis Marquez's notes resonated with his own ideas, creating a powerful synergy. He started to push back, subtly at first, then with more confidence, armed with data and the undeniable truth of his calculations. The ivory ceiling was still there, but now he wasn't pushing alone. The revelation struck like cosmic lightning in the sterile hum of the Prescott Research Lab. It was 3 a.m., the campus silent, but Jamal's mind was a nebula of activity. He was dissecting Professor Thorne's acclaimed black hole accretion disk model, spurred by an anomaly hinted at in Luis Marquez's notes. Simulation after simulation ran, pixels dancing, numbers crunching. Then he saw it, a flaw. Not a trivial misstep, but a fundamental error in Thorne's equations regarding relativistic effects under extreme gravity. The implications were staggering. It could redefine how they understood the energy output of quasars. His heart hammered. This was it. His discovery. He imagined Ms. Nguyen's proud nod, Tasha's awestruck gasp, his mother's tired eyes shining. You have to publish, Jamal. Now. Aisha's voice was a clarion call when he showed her, her eyes wide with shared excitement. Dr. Marquez, more measured, confirmed its brilliance. Luis would be so proud. But be cautious, Jamal. Academia can be a battlefield. He began drafting his paper, the words flowing with the thrill of discovery. He even entertained a fleeting, naive thought of showing it to Thorne, seeking that elusive academic validation. A fatal hesitation. Before he could hit submit, the universe tilted. At the weekly departmental colloquium, Thorne, as the keynote, began presenting his latest refinements. As Thorne's equations materialized on the screen, a cold dread enveloped Jamal. They were his equations. The elegant solution Thorne unveiled was Jamal's meticulously derived correction. The room buzzed with appreciation for Thorne's genius. Jamal felt the blood drain from his face. Aisha, beside him, saw his stricken expression, then looked at Thorne, preening under the academic spotlight, and her eyes narrowed into slits of fury. After, Aisha practically dragged a shell-shocked Jamal to Thorne's office. Professor, she began, her voice tight. That was Jamal's discovery you just presented. Thorne leaned back, a patronizing smirk playing on his lips. Mr. Carter? Are you accusing me? Jamal found his voice, trembling. Sir, the relativistic correction. I discovered that. I have the simulations. Thorne chuckled, a dry, dismissive sound. Ah, youthful overzealousness. Perhaps you overheard something? Or perhaps you're simply mistaken. His gaze hardened. Frankly, Carter, this kind of paranoia, This is precisely why we sometimes hesitate to admit students of your particular profile. It breeds a disruptive sense of entitlement, gaslighting, brutal, racially charged. You're not just wrong, you're unstable. You're the problem. The theft was a gut punch. The casual, cruel dismissal, the insinuation that his very identity was the issue, was a soul-crushing blow. His grades nosedived. The stars, once a comfort, now seemed to mock him. Your kind tends to overreach. This is why we hesitate to admit your type. The words became a tormenting echo. Late one night, Dr. Marquez found him in the lab, a ghost haunting his own stolen work, disheveled, murmuring equations. The spark in his eyes was nearly dead. "Jamal?" she whispered, a hand on his shoulder. He looked up, his gaze haunted. "He took it, Dr. Marquez. He took my light. They'll erase me," he choked out, the despair a raw, gaping wound. "They'll just erase me." The train clattered south, each mile back to Chicago a further retreat into a gray, internal landscape. The familiar chaos of the South Side felt both alien and a painful reminder of the bright hopes he'd carried away. Tasha's excited questions about giant telescopes and smart professors were tiny daggers. How could he tell his starstruck sister that her starman was falling? Lorna, however, saw through the facade. Her nurse's eyes, trained to detect unspoken pain, registered the hollowness in his, the sag in his shoulders. One evening, on the fire escape, under a sky mostly obscured by city glow, she sat beside him, the silence a comforting blanket. "Baby," she began, her voice the soft, strong anchor of his life. "What did they do to you out there?" "The dam broke." The story poured out: Thorne's theft, the gaslighting, the crushing weight of disbelief, of being made less. He spoke of the ivory ceiling that felt like a concrete press. When he finished, Lorna took his hands. Hers were rough, calloused from years of scrubbing hospital floors, of mending broken bodies. Strong hands. She gripped his tightly. "Your daddy," she said, her voice thick with unshed tears and fierce love. He faced worse. Every day. Little cuts, big ones. People looking right through him or down on him 'cause his skin was the wrong shade for their comfort. She paused, her gaze lost in memory. He'd come home some nights so diminished, but he'd never let it put out his fire. He'd say, "Lorna, when they try to bury you, that's when you gotta show 'em you're a seed." He'd tell you, Jamal, he'd tell you to burn brighter. Not for them. For yourself. For us. Burn brighter. The words resonated. A spark in the desolate cold. His father's voice, his mother's strength. A new feeling began to stir beneath the despair. Not helpless anger, but a focused, glacial rage. He wouldn't be erased. That night, the kitchen table became his command center. His laptop glowed. An idea, audacious and risky, took root. He remembered Aisha's talk of shaking systems. He logged into Prescott's internal server, fingers flying, using a backdoor Aisha had shown him. He navigated to Thorne's email archive. It felt invasive, a violation, but Thorne's smug face, his dismissive words, fueled a cold resolve. Hours crawled by. His eyes burned. Then, he found it. A folder, cryptically labeled Liability Mitigation. Encrypted emails between Thorne and Dean Albright. Using a tool Aisha had shared, he cracked them one by one. The truth was uglier than he'd imagined. Carter's discovery presents a complication. My preliminary work, crucial for the upcoming grant cycle. Thorne had written. The dean's reply: Richard, manage this delicately. The optics, problematic. Containment is key. Can't afford another diversity initiative scandal. And the coldest cut, Thorne reviewed his record. Background makes him vulnerable to suggestion. Emphasize inexperience. If he persists, frame as academic stress. Priority, protect the university's reputation and your program. It wasn't just theft. It was a calculated conspiracy. They hadn't just seen his skin, they'd weaponized it, deemed him a liability. The fire escape, the stars, his father's telescope all felt momentarily tainted. But Lorna's words echoed, burn brighter. The emails weren't just proof, they were fuel. The collapsing star of his hope was reigniting, not as a gentle glow, but as the precursor to a violent, cleansing supernova. The Prescott University Spring Symposium was in full swing, an academic pageant under the chandeliers of the main auditorium. Professor Richard Thorne, the celebrated keynote, was about to unveil his groundbreaking black hole theory, the one built on Jamal's stolen light. Jamal sat in the back, a USB drive a hot, pulsing secret in his palm. Aisha, beside him, phone primed, was a coiled spring of fierce anticipation. Dr. Marquez, a silent beacon of support, sat near the front. Lorna's voice echoed in his mind. Burn brighter. This wasn't just about reclamation. It was about shattering the silence, exposing the rot. Thorne took the stage, silver-haired and self-assured, basking in the adulation. He began, his voice a smooth river of stolen brilliance, Jamal's equations blooming on the screen behind him. As Thorne reached his crescendo, detailing the revolutionary implications, Jamal stood. He walked, not with hesitation but with the inexorable pull of a celestial body on a collision course. A murmur rippled. Heads turned. Thorne paused, an annoyed frown creasing his brow. Mr. Carter? This is hardly the time. Jamal didn't flinch. He reached the technician's station, plugged in his drive. Before anyone could react, the screen behind Thorne flickered, then transformed. Thorne's image was replaced by the damning emails, liability mitigation looming large. My apologies, Professor, for the interruption. Jamal's voice, amplified, cut through the stunned silence, clear and cold as interstellar space. But I believe the audience deserves the full context of your groundbreaking work. Gasps. Chaos. Phones flashed. Aisha was live-streaming, her voice a rapid-fire commentary. #Stellar Ignorance began its global ascent. For months, Jamal continued, his gaze sweeping the sea of shocked faces. I, Jamal Carter, a student you dismissed, a liability you sought to contain, poured my soul into the research you just presented. You didn't just steal my work, Professor. You tried to steal my voice. You saw my skin, not my stars. Now watch them explode. Click. Another email. The dean's complicity, stark and undeniable. The auditorium erupted. Shouts of shame. Thief. Thorne stood ashen, his carefully constructed universe imploding. Dean Albright looked like he'd seen a ghost. In the ensuing pandemonium, Dr. Elena Marquez rose. Her voice, though quiet, resonated with profound integrity. I can no longer, in good conscience, be affiliated with an institution that perpetuates such abuses. She announced her resignation and the release of decades of data documenting Prescott's systemic bias. Another shockwave. The university, scrambling, suspended Thorne. Dean Albright, pale and stammering, announced an emergency task force, then cornered Jamal backstage, offering a hollow apology. Jamal looked at the dean, at the desperation. A deep, weary coldness settled in him. This wasn't triumph, not yet. It was a reckoning. This isn't victory, Dean Albright, Jamal said, his voice devoid of heat, heavy with the weight of endured injustice. This is a receipt. Payment for services rendered in the currency of my stolen labor, my pain, and my resilience. The bill for your systemic ignorance is long, long overdue. He turned, leaving the dean amidst the flashing lights, the supernova of his actions illuminating the darkest corners of an institution that had tried and spectacularly failed to eclipse his light. The fallout was seismic. Jamal, vindicated but weary, knew Prescott was no longer his sky. He transferred to a historically black college, a place where his brilliance was nurtured, not interrogated. The air there was breathable. He didn't forget where he came from. Back on the south side, he helped found a community observatory, his father's battered telescope its heart. He taught local teens to read the starlight, to see their own potential reflected in the infinite. In their eager faces, he saw his younger self, his father's legacy blooming anew. Aisha Patel, true to her fire, launched Stellar Equity, a non-profit auditing academic institutions for bias, her #Stellar Ignorance a global rallying cry. Dr. Marquez, her data a powerful weapon, became a formidable advocate for reform, joining forces with Aisha. Years spun by like galaxies. Tasha Carter soared, an aerospace engineer whose work helped build the instruments that peered ever deeper into space. Lorna watched her children, her starman and her skyflyer. A quiet, profound pride easing the lines of a lifetime struggle. Thorne's star imploded. His memoir, A Wine of Self-Pity, gathered dust. Prescott's enrollment in astrophysics faltered, its reputation tarnished. The receipt Jamal had issued was being paid, slowly, painfully. One crisp autumn evening, Jamal stood on a hill overlooking a new observatory. Beside him, Tasha, now a peer, and Dr. Marquez, a mentor and friend. It was the unveiling of the Marquez-Carter telescope, a testament to reclaimed legacies and collaborative brilliance, funded by those who believed in a more equitable universe of discovery. Later, back at the Southside Community Observatory, Jamal guided a new generation. Their faces, upturned, glowed with starlight and the soft light of a screen displaying images from the new telescope. He pointed to a distant smudge of cosmic dust, a galaxy birthing stars. The universe is vast, he said. his voice resonating with the quiet strength of one who had navigated profound darkness. He remembered his father's wisdom, his mother's resilience, Aisha's fire, Elena's grace. The stolen light, reclaimed, now multiplied. It's filled with mysteries, with black holes that consume, and with stars that burn for eons. It can seem indifferent. He met their bright, hopeful eyes. But it's ours to map, he continued, a gentle smile touching his lips. Every single one of us has the right to reach for those stars, to chart our own constellations, to add our light to the cosmos. He adjusted the eyepiece for a young girl. Her gasp of wonder at Saturn's rings a silent symphony. A profound peace settled over Jamal. The scars remained, a map of his journey, but they no longer defined him. They were part of the new constellation he had become, a beacon against the encroaching dark. In the cosmos, even the darkest voids bend to the weight of light. What a journey, right? Jamal didn't just survive the system, he challenged it with truth. If that hit you, smash like, share the story, and subscribe for more narratives that don't just inspire, they expose. Let's keep uncovering stars the world tried to ignore.